Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum. This week, we're going to dive into a more modern game from a franchise that, honestly, I wish I'd gotten to a lot sooner. That being Kirby. And this one is Kirby the Forgotten Land. Or Kirby and the Forgotten Land, excuse me. But Kirby, like I said, is one of those things that I never got into, and I felt stupid for not doing it. Because it's just fun. Nintendo hit upon something where it doesn't have to be difficult. Doesn't have to be challenging. Just make a game. Make it goofy. Make it fun. But still have some excitement to it. And all around it, you make a character that typifies exactly what you're looking for. And that's Kirby. Because you look at Kirby, you know exactly what you're getting. And what sets Kirby apart is, for all the experimentation that you can do in a platformer and all the fun you can do, Kirby has managed to keep itself pretty stable. It does some cool stuff like Kirby's Dream Course or Kirby 3D or whatever, and it does things. My first introduction was Star Alloys, so that should tell you how far along I was and how stupid I am for waiting this long. But again, Kirby's one of those things that grabs you at different times, but I guarantee you, if you let it grab you, you will be a fan for life. And Kirby was always a 2D game. I think a couple tried 3D or isometric 3D, or tried something different with the formula. Epic Yarn, turn them into a ball of yarn, stuff like that. Canvas Curse, I think it was like drawing or painting stuff, or like watercolor paints or whatever. But what it never did was 3D. And this is 25 years after Super Mario 3D, 25 years after Ocarina of Time, almost all the other games in Nintendo's catalog. Nintendo never went full 3D with Kirby until now. And the result was fantastic. Because it's not just the fact that it went 3D, but maintained everything that, say, a 2D Kirby game would have been. You know, copy your abilities, float around, swallow enemies, just have an easy go of it. They managed to add a cool mechanic known as Mouthful, because they took advantage of the 3D aspect and gave Kirby shapes to add to. And it could be something that he didn't do before, or he did before but was never shown in this way, because again, it's a 3D space. There's so much you can do with that. But it's not overwhelming. At the end of the day, Kirby is about a good set of abilities, maybe 10 to 15, give or take, using them the right way, and going through levels that are honestly pretty standard. But there's something good about that. It's a good-feeling game. It's a tight game. And this is, again, somebody who doesn't have as much experience, somebody who's tinkering with all the skills and stuff, knows this stuff in and out. You're not going to miss a beat because the 3D feels just as good. They managed to take the 3D and make it work. But I'll go into that in a little later. I'll talk about the plot and what little there is, but there is a plot. Kirby games do have plots in them. Odd as it is, given Kirby as a character. But Kirby's sitting in his planet and sleeping, as usual, and he gets transported into this new land by this thing known as an Alphalin. It's just a new plushy looking mascot thing. There's always like one. There's a star, or there's a elephant, or whatever the fuck. But in this game, it's an Alphalin, and Kirby gets transported to what's known as the Forgotten Land. Now, it's not like technically a planet, more so that it's our planet, or at least what our planet would look like if it had died out. Because one of the first things you get is the Mouthful. And anybody who might have seen footage of Forgotten Land was introduced to the Kirby car, or the Kirby. I've heard it said both ways. But the Kirby car Mouthful. So basically, anything that he can't eat full or transform himself into, he wraps himself around it, as odd as that sounds, and becomes and controls that thing. So he can be a car, he can be a vending machine, he can be a giant water balloon filled with water, he can be a big fucking rolling pin pipe thing that rolls down a hill. It's just amazing. It's fun, but it adds to the element of nothing's there. Nobody's here. It's just an eerie place full of monsters. Those monsters are part of what is known as the Beast Pack. And the bosses in this game is all plants or animals. Mostly they animals, but they do throw in, wispy woods in one instance. Because you gotta have the woods, you gotta have the tree. But again, everything fits. And apologies if I keep saying again and again. Again, I'm usually better at that. But still, Kirby is one of those things where you have to go beyond just what a plot is. I said this the last time with Donkey Kong Country. Sometimes you don't need a plot. Sometimes you just need a setting and you need your characters to just go and explore. And even though this is a level-based game, you still have lots of things that you can do with Kirby. He's looking for Elfalin. He's looking for the Beast Pack. He's looking to save the Waddle Dees, who have been captured by the Beast Pack. And the cool part about all of this is in between levels, not only do you get all the swallow abilities and the copy abilities and the mouthful and stuff to get through the levels, you can use all of those techniques to find hidden Waddle Dees. So if you don't want to be a completionist, I know I wasn't in my playthrough, but you can collect a ton of hidden items. You could do an arena. You could do a thing known as Waddle Dee Town and rebuild it. So you rebuild Waddle Dee Town, and it can grant you higher level abilities via blueprints. So say you don't like the cutter ability, well, you can upgrade it to be more powerful or have more range. Speaking of those abilities, some are better than others. I think they took away some of the other ones. I mean, I didn't see Stone, I didn't see Mike, I didn't see some of the other ones. I think they cut down the abilities. You had some staples. You had Cutter, you had Sword, you had, I believe it was Ranger. I'm not sure if that was a new one or something they added, but you had a Bang Bang Shooty Gun one. That one was my favorite because it's a gun in a Kirby game. How could you not think that's just hilarious? But my personal favorite, I think, other than that, was the Tornado. And it seems odd to use because you're holding the button instead of just button mashing, but there's still like 10 abilities that you can just use. And you can find one that works for you, and if you don't like it, then you can use a higher powered version of a different one. You can use ice or fire if you'd prefer to set people on fire or turn them into ice. I think fire, later on, you can do fire and then do bleed damage or fire damage to the enemies, and that's actually a way to kill bosses pretty quickly, is just have them be set on fire and do that. So that ended up becoming my boss strategy, was just set things on fire and run the fuck away, because the bosses can do some damage. Even though I wasn't great at dodge rolling, I wish I had learned that there was a dodge roll. So that shows you, again, I'm coming from a perspective of a Kirby newbie. Still not a tough game. You can make it as tough as you want, though. Once the game is over, you can look for more Waddle Dees. You can look for more gotcha items. You can look for a ton of stuff. You have challenge rooms where you can mess around with all these cool things, like the mouthful abilities, different leveled abilities from the copy abilities. So if you want to do level 1 fire, you can do that. If you want to do volcano fire, you can do that. You want to do dragon fire, you can do that one too. So you can find stuff hidden in each area. And speaking of the areas, the favorite has to be the carnival, because you had anything from a haunted house to a dragster derby. I don't think you had a Ferris wheel one, but you had stuff where you can kind of like avoid these Ferris wheels and roller coasters hitting you. So you had anything from just a standard grassland and ice world and such. But you do so much with these areas. I don't think it's as specific as, say, Donkey Kong Country is with its gimmicks, and you have a gimmick and you use it. But Kirby was great at subtly telling you that a special move or a special Waddle Dee spot would be unlocked if you used a specific copy ability we gave you at the right time. So they would give you, say, Cutter, even if I wasn't a fan of Cutter or Drill, they gave you those throughout the stage, and then you can use that to do the thing you need to. They'll give you Mouthful to say, okay, I need to cut out all of the poison or all of the gunk or all of the stuff in the stage so I can walk around. I can turn into a fucking thing of stairs, just this gigantic riser of stairs. You could turn into a traffic cone and jump and break the pillar that you're sitting on. You could use a vending machine Mouthful and shoot out soda cans as projectiles. There's so much cool stuff you can do with these Mouthful abilities. They cut down the sheer amount of ideas that you could do, and they instead allowed you to upgrade them. And I felt for somebody like me that was new to this situation, gave me less that I had to think about. Because I played Star Allies and I played Superstar, and as much as I know the abilities, I think I was more comfortable understanding the 4 or 5 major abilities and testing them all and saying, okay, I didn't like Drill, but I really like Tornado, and I really like Fire, but I didn't want to do Drill just to get the Waddle Dees at the end of the stage, or get the Drill to get the Waddle Dee thing at the end. I never figured out how to use Cutter, so I didn't want to use it. But that's the benefit. Kirby is challenging enough in its hidden stuff to give you some cool ideas at play. So if you want to do all the tinkering and the achievement hunting and whatever to find all the Waddle Dees and find all the stages and find all the puzzles, you can do that. If you wanted to fight Meta Knight in Arena or fight a boss rush at the end of the game, you can do that. If you want to fight the extra harder bosses, you can do that. Or if you just want to play the 6 or 7 main stages, play the game once and have a good time, you can do that. And that's something that Nintendo's always been good at with their platformers, is an execution of 10 and a degree of difficulty of 5, or the other way around. They're not trying to overwhelm you. I think that later on, especially for Rare, when they became collectathon things, it became, oh my god, you have to collect a thing if you want to, and it became, mandatory to do it if you wanted to do the bonus stages, especially in like the later Donkey Kong Country games like 2 and 3, where they'd lock the stages behind all the creme coins and whatnot. But what if you don't want to do that? What if you just want to have fun and beat the game once and have a good time? Kirby has that in spades. If you wanted to challenge yourself in a boss, you can do that, but you're playing a little puffball rolling around a desert, or rolling around a deserted planet. He's eating dudes and eating a car to become a car. You don't have to take it super seriously. So at the end of the day, Kirby is on the lighter scale of a platformer. But for somebody from an RPG background who had lost all of the engagement with platformers back in the 2D era, to play a 3D game like this was a treat, because I was able to pick my difficulty and go. Pick what I wanted to do and go. Because I felt, as a newbie to Kirby, I would have felt kind of overwhelmed if I was playing something like a Mega Man 2 or something like some of the harder games way back when. But Kirby feels to me like it gives you enough of a crutch that you never feel like a stage is so difficult that it's trying to kill you. Kirby just wants you to have fun with it. And as somebody who doesn't play platformers anymore, getting back into it, this was the perfect platformer for me. Kirby is a perfect representation of what it means to have fun with a video game. Every video game is different. Everything is going to respond and resonate differently to some people. But I think what Kirby does do is it gives you enough of a plot to give you something to shoot for. It gives you enough achievement hunting so the achievement hunting people were happy if you want to 100% the game. It gives you enough challenge, if you want it, to try bosses over and over again. You can try a different weapon on a different boss and see how that goes. You're allowed to experiment while still maintaining a sense of, I'm just having fun, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling good. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget that having fun is what a video game is supposed to bring us. And I can't wait for the next Kirby game, because they've proven they can do 3D. If they want to go back to 2D, that's great. Star Allies was great. I want to try all the other ones now. I forgot how good all this stuff was. And now I want to go back and play Planet Robobot or all the other Kirby games, Canvas Curse, Epic Yarn, all of those ones I had heard of, but because I didn't have a Nintendo platform, I just ignored. Kirby is something you should never ignore. It is so good. And I've said this before. There are like 5 or 10 games that I would say recommend to everybody. Kirby's up there. Kirby is exactly the type of game that you can show a kid, you can show an achievement hunter, you can show a hardened video gamer, you can show a filthy casual like me. Perfectly acceptable. I went into it knowing nothing and came out of it loving every minute of it. But that'll do it for me for Kirby this week. Next week, we go into a completely different set of ideas, because we had the fun, free, fanciful Kirby and Forgotten Land, and next week we're talking about Black Lagoon. Holy crap. So, yeah, totally different left turn into dark anime territory. But that's perfectly fine, because the next week after that, we're doing a completely different thing. We're getting to that long-awaited Final Fantasy IV review. And to top it all off, I'm going to add in Final Fantasy IV The After Years. And yay, I can bitch about that game sucking. But anyway, Final Fantasy IV is great. Final Fantasy IV The After Years is not so much. But I watched it and had fun with it and played it a couple times. I mean, it's more Final Fantasy IV if you like that sort of thing, but the original's still great. And there's so many different versions of Final Fantasy IV I can talk about, so yay! So we have Final Fantasy IV to talk about, and then after that, the 1-year anniversary of becoming a podcaster. Am I the best podcaster in the world? Fuck no. I have things I need to work on, but I feel that I have a system that works for me, and I'm able to come in with an open mind and try to discuss something in a space that isn't like a video game trying to go nuts over Twitch or trying to explain it on a YouTube video. This gives me the platform to speak about a game, sometimes at length or sometimes in just a short, quick burst. But I do want to kind of go over my process and my thought process when I started and how I feel now after having done it for a year. Also, I wanted to talk about the things that I do want to see in anime or do see in a video game and what I like, which most people can kind of tell right away. And then the things that drive me nuts about video games and the things that I don't like about certain anime and wish they wouldn't do. But again, I do want to express that I started this under the assumption that I wouldn't just effuse praise, but I also wouldn't just rail on a game for not being my thing. I wanted to come out as a podcaster to be a kind of critical eye to an extent and realize, well, why didn't I like it? But what were they trying to do? And if they'd done this instead, maybe that'll work. But it isn't that simple. So again, I think I'll take a critical eye as to why I like certain things that I like, why I hate things I do hate, but why I try not to obsess over either extreme and try to come to a happy medium. Because at the end of the day, if you're not happy, and this is something I work out a lot with, because sometimes I fly off the handle to other people who disagree with me, which is something I wish I didn't do. Sometimes you have to take a look at yourself and think, why? Why do you like a thing that you like, but also why do you hate a thing you hate? But can you find a happy medium when you're discussing that with people and say, okay, why do you like it? Well, here's why I don't think it worked. You know, you have to have a critical eye for things. So That's what I think the first year anniversary is going to do for me. It's going to express many of the opinions I have in a general sense, and then give some examples as to what I like, what I don't like about it, and then go from there. But we have Black Lagoon, Final Fantasy X, or Final Fantasy IV, excuse me. We'll get to Final Fantasy X some other day. I completed it, so I had it on my brain. And then the first year anniversary. After that, I believe it's Castlevania Aria and Dawn of Sorrow. So another double bill. But that's for another week. So I'll see you guys next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.